Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. Shot Caller is the new movie that is directed by Rick Romanoir, who brought us films like Felon in 2008 and the rock movie Snitch. I think it's 2013 that was made. And it is a movie that has got quite an impressive cast, and it stars Nikolai Coster-Waldau, who, if you don't recognise that name, if I just say Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones, you'll know who I mean if you watch Game of Thrones. John Bernthal, Jeffrey Donovan, and Benjamin Bratt. And it tells the tale, basically, of a chap who is living a fairly normal life, who ends up going inside. But it's told in a slightly different way. Essentially, this is a prison drama. And you start off meeting his character at the beginning, Jacob Stroke. He's called Money, that's his gang name. And he's just being released from prison, from a long stretch in prison. He's got all the gang tattoos. He's obviously someone not to be trifled with. He's got a lot of respect within the gangs. And he's just been released from prison, but throughout the movie we actually learn how he got in prison, and this is what I meant at the beginning. He started off as a normal chap. He worked in an office, quite a powerful job in finance, I think it is. He causes a crash, he causes the death of his friend and injures somebody else, and he ends up inside. And while he's inside, he has to basically stay alive, so he has to join a gang, and they ask some fairly, what we would consider, unreasonable things of him, that starts off as small favours and then build up to basically murder on the inside to gain their respect and to continue the protection, all that kind of stuff. And he basically ends up losing himself inside, becomes a whole different person, very, very violent criminal gangster, and a complete change from the character he was when he goes into prison, which I thought was quite interesting. Now, this film reminded me in a lot of ways, is almost like a combination between An Innocent Man, if you remember that movie with Tom Selleck, which I'd forgotten about, to be honest. It's a very good movie, but this movie kept making me think about that movie. Now, even though this guy isn't innocent, he is a seemingly normal chap that ends up inside prison that completely changes who he is. And that reminded me a little bit of An Innocent Man with Tom Selleck. So it was a bit like An Innocent Man and American History X without the racism. This film is not really based on racism like American History X, but the gang stuff reminded me of that very much. And I have to say, I thought this was a very, very good movie. Some very, very good performances throughout by everybody, primarily from Nikolai, who gives a very, very impressive performance. The only issue I had, and you get over it fairly quickly, is the accent. Now, anybody that watches him in Game of Thrones or knows him knows that he's from Denmark, so he does have a mild accent when you watch him in Game of Thrones. A cross between Denmark and English and American, and that's, you see him trying to pull off this accent in this movie, like this full-on American accent, and it doesn't quite work. So you do kind of get over it, and it doesn't spoil the movie, but it is a little distracting initially. But his performance overall is very, very good, as is everybody else's. And if you're a fan of prison movies, prison dramas, I think this is a very good one. Now, I've never seen Felon, another movie that this director made, but after watching this movie and I've looked at his filmography and I've watched the trailer for Felon, I think I'm going to search that movie out and watch it, because that looks very good too. It's got Val Kilmer in it and Stephen Dorff. So this director has a history of prison movies and high quality prison movies. From my understanding, his Felon was very well received, and I think this is a movie that is certainly worth a watch. there is quite a convoluted storyline going on, in a sense of he's trying to keep his respect with the gangs. He's trying to protect his family while keeping them at a distance, but also there's the police and all these other people involved, and they're trying to turn some of his friends, they're trying to turn him, but he's kind of doing them favours too without them knowing. So there's kind of this convoluted storyline going on that does get a little bit hard to follow sometimes. You don't know who's loyal to who and who's doing what and why they're doing this, that and the other, but the very core of this is a very well made dramatic prison character story piece that is certainly worth your time, I would say.